What is going on, guys? So today we are going to be taking a look at some damage formulas and a lot of math. All right, so I'm going to try to make this as simplistic as I can because, I know math isn't everybody's favorite subject in school, but I'm going to start up pretty simple and then I'll kind of dive as deep as I have personally gotten into this formula, and we'll kind of just go over stuff like that. So to do this, we're actually going to be switching back and forth between the game and a spreadsheet that I have made that you guys can utilize for your own use if you would like to. I have it probably linked down in the description below. If I don't and you want it, somebody yell at me in the comments. I'm just forgetful. Thank you, Oreo. You gonna play the game? Appreciate that. All right, so this is the spreadsheet that I have created for you guys. Basically, you just only want to edit these light yellow colors. You don't want to mess with anything else. It should be locked, but if you make a copy of this like most people would to edit their own, then it's gonna kind of unlock it for you. So just kind of be wary. Don't really mess with anything outside of these yellow colored spaces. To break this down most simply, we're going to start at the top and then we're going to kind of drill down. The first part of the formula that we really need to talk about is the attack stat. So this section right here basically goes over how to get your attack. This is basically set up in three different parts. We have base attack, we have percentage, and then we have flat attack. So base attack is your weapon plus your character attack, which is actually just the white number from the details. So if you go under your character sheet and you look here, this number, this 560 right here, that's actually just your base attack. For whatever reason, I can't find a way to just show me a character's base attack, but if you really are curious, if you go under your weapon, you can see 347. If you minus the total, this 560 by 347, you'll get your base attack corresponding to whatever level you are currently at. For whatever reason, they just don't show you, and every character, even if they are a brand new character, has some type of weapon attached to them, so you never get like a real answer for that. I don't know why they don't do that. If you are curious though, you can find it online. It's out there because people have done the math on it. Next, we have this percentage. So the percentage is any additional percents from your weapons or artifacts. So for Venti here, just in particular, I don't have an attack percentage on my my warbow here. I only have an energy recharge, so that doesn't get counted. But for characters like Razor, who may have the Debate Club, the Debate Club has an attack percent associated with it, so you would add that in. But for our particular case, because we're talking about Venti, just know that it's not every percentage, it's only if it specifically calls out attack percentage. So we would add that if this one had it. And then we actually just need to go through all of our artifacts and find any attack percents. So here's one for 4.7, nothing there, nothing there. And here's one for 4.7. So in total, we should have, what is that, 9.4? We should have a 9.4 on the spreadsheet. And that we do. Next, we do have flat attack. So this is basically the same thing, except feather is also included in this. Plus you have any additional flat numbers from your artifacts. So if we go back into our flower, you can see we have no flat attack there. We do have a 47 here, which will be added in. No other flat attacks in our substats. Nothing there. We do have a 14 here, and we should have a 14 there. So 28 plus 47 should give us 75. So that actually ends up totaling 688. Now, if you don't necessarily care about all that math, the quickest way to just get that number is to go into your attributes, and you can see we have a 688 right there, which matches our 688 on the spreadsheet. So that's how we get this attack number. So next we actually have our damage bonus. So the damage bonus, whether it is a physical or elemental skill that you are using. One thing to note when I talk about skills, basically, everything that can be found under skill attributes is considered a skill. So if we're talking about normal attacks, if we're talking about, elemental skills, we're talking about elemental bursts, all of this is kind of where this is coming from. So if we take a look here at our normal attack, we are going to be just doing a normal attack to start off with. We're going to be just focusing on single hit. So 26.1%, 26.1%. This specifically is what we're looking at. If we look here, you can see normal attack is just a normal physical attack. It doesn't actually add in any kind of elemental damage. We are going to look at another example where we talk about the charge shot, which will deal a Nemo damage. So keep that in mind. We're going to come back to that. So we don't actually have any physical damage bonuses. The way we can verify that is if we go all the way down here at the very bottom, you can see physical damage bonus is at 0%. My webcam kind of covers it up there, but it is this 0% here. So, being that that's the case, we're going to leave a 0 there. Our skill multiplier, this is actually what we were just talking about in our talents. Our skills, you can see 26.1% plus 26.1%. Because this is very specific and, showing the two are being added together, it doesn't show 56.8 here. So what we're going to see is two small hits, both of which are going to be 26.1 and 26.1 separately added together for the single hit. That is super confusing. I'm sorry that's so confusing. Basically, it's just going to hit twice and we'll see two small numbers pop up. So being that they are physical and they are 26.1, we are going to just leave it at 26.1. Okay, and that'll make sense here in just a second. Now this next part is a little, probably the most confusing section, and I guess this is a way that MiHoYo has come up with a way to scale the damage so that it kind of fits into the world level a little bit better. Basically, you have a level difference, and this is something that has been researched quite a bit and something that people have found to be true, but it's just a little bit wonky. So basically what it's going to do is it's going to take your current level, which by the way, my Venti is currently at level 70. Even though he's ascended, it's still level 70. Our enemy that we're going to be going up against, we'll fill that in just a second. And then we have enemy resistance. So this resistance actually comes from this table right here. So this table is something that I also found online, which people have researched and found to be true. Basically, we're going to be going up against a Hilitrol, which means that it's going to have 10% physical resistance and 10% elemental resistance. So that just means any kind of physical damage that you do, it's going to resist 10% of whatever the damage would be normally calculated at. Any elemental damage that you would do would also be calculated at 10% less than what it normally would be. Some notable ones here that I actually want to call out. This Ruin Guard, 70% physical. If you ever wondered like why you ran up to that Ruin Guard and your damage just looked like it did nothing against it, it's not because it's like super tanky or super difficult to beat. It's just because it has really high physical resistance. Use more elemental damage and you'll be fine. Notice that the Assassins and the Electro-Sensins also do have some extra resistances tied into them. Not only do they have a 10% of all elemental resistance, but they do share a 50% resistance in Pyro and Electro respectively. Just know that we're going to be going up against a Hilitrol. We'll get his level in just a second. And then the last bit that you should need to fill out is actually going to be the critical rate and the crit damage, which actually can be found under the details towards the very top. You have crit rate 7.5%, crit damage 68.7%. Easy peasy. Those two numbers come from there. And as you can see, we are predicting, based on all the information that's currently put in, we are predicting a normal hit of 83. Now, the damage is rounded somehow in the game, and I currently haven't figured out where exactly they are rounded. I just round it off at a couple of different spots. I make sure to round the total base attack because that is actually rounded on the character sheet screen. And then I also round off the final hit because it ends up coming out of the white damage that shows up on screen as a flat number. Now, it's probably going to be there somewhere else rounded, but I currently can't figure that out. So anyways, so we're going to check out this Hilitrol here. Let's see, what level are you, boy? He is level 62. Cool. Nice. I'm so happy that I did that. What? So we're just going to make sure we have level 62 punched into our spreadsheet here, and we are expecting a hit of 83. So let's actually hop down here and you'll see this guy. So we're going to fire it off. 2 hits. Remember, 2 hits because of our talent has 26.1 plus 26.1. And you see we do have 2 hits there that show up, and they are both physical. 82, and we have a 139. So let's go ahead and talk about the 139. Why does 139 show up? Because of our crit rate and our crit damage, we should expect, of course, to do critical damage every now and then. So at a rate of 7.5% of the time, we are going to do 68.7%. So if we look here, that's where we get our number, which means it actually just ends up taking the normal hit and it applies the 68.7 to it, which ends up giving us 140. Now, remember, it's a little wonky. If I take out the rounding here, you can see that it does end up showing well, that one's still 140. Let's take out the rounding here. And you'll see 82.75. Maybe they round down. Maybe they floor it. I'm not sure. Since that works for this case, we'll We'll actually add that in really quick so that way the numbers are a little bit more accurate for us. Now, since we saw the 138 show up, or was it 139? Was it 139? That was 179. So that was second hit. So 82s. Give me a crit. $139. Okay, it was 139. Jesus. Yeah, see, I don't know. I don't know exactly where they're rounded. I don't know where they're flooring it, how they're doing that. But with a small fault tolerance, this formula is extremely close. That's basically the gist of how you calculate damage. So now let's take a look at a charge shot. So basically we have all of the exact same numbers. We still have an attack of 688. Nothing's changed there. Now, because our charge shot ends up turning into anemo damage, we need to take a couple of more things into consideration here. So if we take a look at our skill multiplier first, let's go ahead and hit this. You can see fully charged aim shot of 155%. And we know based on the description that it turns into anemo damage. That's where this skill multiplier is being changed. This damage bonus is also going to be changed because it was 0% before. Based on my artifacts, I have a anemo damage bonus of 49.8%. So here you can see we have a 34.8% of anemo damage there, and then couple that with the 15% bonus that I get from the Fair-Distant Veneer. That is what is ended up giving me this 49.8 here. But simply put, there's a lot of factors that go into it. It may be something with your elemental resonance, with your team setup, or anything like that. And it could be very situational where, you know, you're using constellations or something like that. All that stuff will change these numbers quite drastically. Just know this is the quickest way to get to that number. So we are going to be rocking the 49.8%, which is where that comes from. Still working with a level 70 Venti on a level 62 enemy with the exact same resistance, and crit rate, crit damage did not change. So let's see what happens if we do a charge shot. Now, if you hit a headshot, it is going to automatically crit. So 1240. Let's do a not headshot. 735, right? So 1240, 735. 1242, 736. So very, very close. Again, 1241. Somewhere along the lines, the rounding is changing it, but you can kind of see like the gist of where that is, where that damage is actually coming from. And you'll also notice down here we do have average damage on the side. So this is something that a lot of people like to look at in terms of DPS. If you're trying to take into account how much DPS a character can do based on the crit damage and the crit rate that you have. This is the average amount of damage that you're gonna do over X amount of hits. You're gonna take your normal hit and your crit hit, and you're basically going to average them out across the crit rate that you have. So if you have a higher crit rate, of course, your average damage is going to go up. And if you have a lower crit rate, your average damage is going to be closer to your normal hit. Of course, unless you have a crit rate of 100%, then you know, never really expect to hit that, you know, always critting unless you have that 100% crit rate. You can apply this to a bunch of different situations. If we want, we could go ahead and apply this to another character. Let's just let's do this official here. So I'm going to be inputting these numbers on my other monitor, but basically our base is going to be 617 right here. Any percents? Oh man, this is going to be rough. We need to physical damage, so that's not going to apply. We need to look at all the percentages in here. So no attack percents there. We have a 3.7 there. Next, we have a 46.6 right here. Nothing there. And a 3.3 there. And as far as our flat attacks, we do have 14 there. We have 232 there. We have 51 there. 31 on here. And 45 on there. Next, we have our physical damage bonus, which is actually going to be 121.2. Next, we have our single one hit off of our normal talent, which is 64.1. Our level, which is 80, and we know the Hilitrol's level is 62, and it's going to have a resistance of 10% to whatever type of damage we do. Then last but not least, we do have our crit rate, which is 48.9, and we do have our crit damage, which is 76.4. We do actually have a hidden percentage on Fischl here. Every character is actually going to have like a bonus stat that kind of applies to them. Fischl's just happens to be attack percent. Venti's is actually energy recharge, which is why it didn't really apply to anything that we were doing in the previous example, but Fischl, since hers is attack percent, it actually does apply. So if you'll notice, you can go into like the Ascension menu and it will kind of tell you like what your stat is. It's really freaking difficult to find it otherwise, and if you are in a situation like with my Venti here and I go to ascend it, it will only show me his Ascension materials. It doesn't really show me like what is going to be ascended, so, or what's going to be increased rather. So I was having some trouble figuring out why Fischl wasn't doing the correct amount of damage, but if we actually take a look here, if we look at like our regular stat sheet, you can see that we have a level, base HP, base attack, base defense, and then it will show you the Ascension stat that's going to get applied as well. So Fischl at level 80 actually has an 18% extra attack attached to her as well, and basically that just gets added in as an attack percent, just like it normally would as if it was an artifact. So we end up with 1432, which is dead on the money on what we have here. So being that that's the case, what should we expect? We should expect 962 on a normal hit, 1696 on a critical. So 962 is what we're looking at. And by the way, I killed the other hill troll trying to figure that out. So 962, and don't pay super big attention to the other white number that pops up, because that is actually Oz's damage that he does at C1. So let's hit this, and you can see 16. What was that? 1697. Come on, give me another crit. That's sorry. Now my compound bow is actually adding in my attack percent. So let's let that fall out, and let's see if we can get a crit here. Well, there was 1697 on that slime back there. I've got stacks. So as you can kind of tell, this is the correct way to at least calculate it. There are 1697. Cool. So there are so many factors that go into this damage that it's insanely difficult to pin it down 100% accurately across multiple hits and scenarios and stuff like that. So I mentioned in a previous video when I was talking about Razor that I was going to go through and find his most optimal weapon, and I still am working on that. I haven't abandoned the idea, but just to kind of show you the headache of what that means, this is what that spreadsheet looks like currently. Razor's base stats, Debate Club stats, normal attack hits, you know, his first hit, second hit, third hit, fourth hit. I mean, this spreadsheet is a headache to say the least. So I still currently am working through that. I just haven't quite finished it. So when I get that finished, of course, I will tell you guys my findings on that. But basically, if you guys are at all curious on how to calculate damage and how that stuff works, this is kind of more of a, you know, intermediate to advanced topic. But I do think that it's helpful to understand, because one of the more important things is, and this is widely known by people that have played the game for, you know, a little while now, but your attack percent. Oh, wow, that is completely incorrect. That should be a plus. Your attack percents are actually only multiplied on your base attack, and then your flat attacks are then added in after the fact. So this actually poses a pretty big question as to how much attack percent should you prioritize versus, you know, other stats. And the big consensus that a lot of people have found is around the 70-ish% mark on your attack percent is really where you start to kind of end up like maxing out where you should be, because you'll see diminished returns after that. And you should really start focusing on your crit damage and your crit rate after you get to about 70-ish%. Because what happens is your critical damage can actually start to increase this average damage number, which across multiple hits and across time is going to give you a higher average damage output than, you know, just normal hits with a higher percentage. Because once you start hitting higher percentages, this number is only referenced against your base attack, and that doesn't really do a whole lot. But crit damage is, you know, calculated off of a normal hit. So as this number increases, it only, you know, pertains to this, but this number plus this number equals this number, and then this number multiplied into this number makes a lot more damage in the long run. So that's pretty much it, guys. I just kind of wanted to talk a little bit about damage and how that stuff is calculated, because it gets really confusing, and I legit have a headache right now just from talking about it. It is one of those things where it's just insanely convoluted, and it needs to be in some sense so that, you know, it scales correctly and things don't get wonky at higher levels and stuff like that. But needless to say, it's an interesting topic. So if you have any questions, I will try to answer them to the best of my knowledge in the comments below. If you have any kind of like simulations that you want to run personally for yourself, then by all means, I will, if I can, remember to link the spreadsheet in the comments, nope, in the description below. But until the next video, guys, I will catch you later, and hopefully you guys have a good rest of your day.